Good evening there, everybody. What is happening? Hopefully, you all are having a wonderful day today. So, when it comes down to it, I thought that I would talk about this little subject that I found very particularly interesting. And today, we're going to be talking about, in my opinion, probably the hottest prospect in all the boxing at the current moment in time, Mr. Ryan Garcia. And of course, a certain amount of people, when I say that, they may disagree and say, "Oh, why do you call Ryan Garcia the hottest prospect in all the boxing?" Because anytime Ryan Garcia's name is mentioned, it's always going to get a great amount of attention. That's how I know that Ryan Garcia, that even certain people, of course, Ryan Garcia at the current moment in time, he has a lot of people that dislike him. But of course, you expect that when you're a person all in all that has a great amount of popularity. But not only that, but is somewhat unproven. So a certain amount of people, of course, are looking at Ryan Garcia right now and saying, "Are you the real deal?" Or, basically is your whole entire character, or I don't want to say character, but is the whole entire hype built on lies? Is it all smoke and mirrors? Listen, what I'll say is this. I think that Mr. Ryan Garcia, I think all in all that he does have some skills that he does need to sharpen up on. I think that he certainly needs to improve his head movement. I think he needs to improve his feet. And I think also that he needs to improve his defense a little bit. But when you take a look at Ryan Garcia, just like Vasily Lomachenko said the last time that he talked about him, he did somewhat surprise us. That means all in all that Vasily Lomachenko, kind of like me, he didn't even expect Ryan Garcia to get past Luke Campbell. And he was able to get past Luke Campbell in somewhat of a dominant fashion. Now, of course, he was able to get knocked down in that fight against Luke Campbell. But the fact overall that he was able to get back up, looked pretty confident in that fight. And he pretty much dominated Luke Campbell from there on out. And he was able to knock him out, I believe, in the sixth or seventh round, whichever round it was. Now, Luke Campbell, in my opinion, he's not going to be a future Hall of Famer. I don't even think he's ever won an official belt. But at least what I'll say about Luke Campbell is this. He was able to give Vasily Lomachenko at least a little bit of a struggle, and he was able to give the former number one 135 pounder in the world, Mr. Jorge Linares, a very, very decently tough and close fight as well, even to the point where I believe that it may have even been a split decision or majority decision, but I can't necessarily remember. But the point is, overall, is that I do believe that Ryan Garcia has the athletic gifts. The big question is, all in all, when is Ryan Garcia going to get put into a ring with one of the big boys? Now, when I say big boys, I'm not even necessarily talking about any of the legitimate champions or very, very, top 10 debatable pound for pound fighters. I'm not necessarily talking about those fighters because I don't necessarily know if Ryan Garcia is ready for a Vasily Lomachenko or a Javante Tank Davis or a Devin Haney or maybe even a George Kambosos Jr. I'm not sure if he's ready for any of those fighters yet. The fighters that Ryan Garcia has to be put in the ring with at the current moment in time is someone like a Javier Fortuna or Jojo Diaz or someone like an Isaac Pitbull Cruz. And apparently, from what I'm hearing, his next possible fight is someone against maybe of a Tevin Farmer. Now, Tevin Farmer, of course, when it comes down to it, he pretty much has been on the map ever since he was able to get the first victory or the first official victory, I believe, over Ivan Redkach. Or maybe, no, actually, you know what? I don't think all in all that he was the first one to get the victory over Ivan Redkach. I believe that actually was Dusan Slatichny, that one Balkan fighter, wherever the hell he was from. I can't necessarily remember. But Tevin Farmer was the first one who completely outboxed Ivan Redkach. Now, of course, looking back on it, we all know that Ivan Redkach was a complete hype job. But when it comes down to it, Tevin Farmer, I do believe that he was a former champion, even though he does have about 5 losses in his career. But the big question is he going to get that big fight with Ryan Garcia next? Now, there's a certain amount of people that believe that Ryan Garcia may win. There's a certain amount of people that believe Tevin Farmer may win. What I'll say is this. If Tevin Farmer were to face Ryan Garcia would have to be somewhat careful, but I just don't see this as a 50-50 fight. And Ryan Garcia, yes, does he have to, straighten up certain things about his style? In my opinion, yes. Like I said, he has to work on his feet. He has to work on his head movement. He has to work on his defense. And Tevin Farmer is a very decently defensive fighter. He's a person that, he is actually very decently skilled, especially for a person that has no power whatsoever. But that's the thing about Tevin Farmer. He has, I believe, about 30 wins in his career and 6 knockouts. He's pretty much overall the 130-pound version of Paulie Malignaggi. That said, maybe a little bit more defensively responsible. But when it comes down to it, Tevin Farmer, if he does face that of Ryan Garcia, I just don't see how Tevin Farmer is going to win that fight. To be honest with you, the most amount of percentage that I would give Tevin Farmer to actually win that fight would be about a 20% chance. I think that it would be an acceptable fight just because Ryan Garcia, he is coming back overall pretty much off of a year layoff. And Tevin Farmer, of course, he hasn't fought within the past couple of years. But after that, Oscar De La Hoya is going to have to start putting him in the ring with some real deal 50-50 matchups. So that means what? That means that he's going to have to start getting in the ring with Mr. Isaac Pitbull Cruz. That means he's going to have to start getting in the ring with overall a Javier Fortuna or one of these other fighters. And in my personal opinion, or Jojo Diaz, Ryan Garcia could very possibly win all those fights, in my opinion. He's more physically gifted than any of those fighters. But overall, we're going to have to see Ryan Garcia, in my opinion, get in the ring with those guys, because Ryan Garcia by Oscar De La Hoya at the current moment in time is being very, very, very highly protected. So we'll see all in all what ends up happening. But like I said, if this fight happens, I don't think a certain amount of people really are going to have a problem with it. I mean, a certain amount of people probably are. Do I think all in all that is the greatest fight out there? No, I don't. And do I think that Tevin Farmer really has a realistic chance? No, I don't. But like I said, Ryan Garcia eventually is going to have to get in the ring with some of those bigger boys. It just is what it is. And eventually he is going to have to get in the ring overall with, even if it's not the upper echelon of fighters, he's going to have to get in the ring with the Isaac Pitbull Cruz. He's going to have to get in the ring overall with the Jojo Diaz. In my personal opinion, the perfect opponent for him next after this fight, because I somewhat understand, because Ryan Garcia is coming off of a hand injury from what I know. But when it comes down to it, all in all, the perfect fight for him after that, in my opinion, would be that of a Jojo Diaz. Because Jojo Diaz, even though he's not necessarily someone that is going to beat anyone that's A grade, Jojo Diaz is a defensively responsible fighter, and he is a person with a little bit of talent. And Jojo Diaz, I think, actually was very motivated for that Ryan Garcia fight. The big question is, will Ryan Garcia and Oscar De La Hoya take that fight? We'll have to see what happens. But I think that this fight is particularly interesting. I think that it is at least a good introduction for Ryan Garcia in the year 2022. But he is going to have to start taking bigger fights, or he is going to get a hell of a lot of criticism, pretty much just like he is now. Now, I get a little bit more on Gervonta Tank Davis's ass because Gervonta Tank Davis has already proved to me that he is of the upper echelon of fighters. I have Gervonta Tank Davis within my top 10 pound per pound. So if you're within my top 10 pound per pound, if you keep facing scrubs the way overall that Gervonta Tank Davis is, at least compared to his standards, yes, you're going to get criticism. Ryan Garcia, I'll give him a little bit of a break for this possible next fight. But after that, he is going to start after facing people, all in all, that are somewhat on his level. Because if he doesn't, he's going to get a certain amount of criticism, and people are going to start paying less and less attention to him. So we'll see all in all what happens with that. But this should be very interesting to see all in all if this fight happens. I think, of course, that this is a safe fight for Ryan Garcia, but still against a fighter that has a little bit of a name. I think that it's at least a decent matchup if I were a promoter of Ryan Garcia next, so I somewhat understand the fight. But after that, he is going to have to be put in the ring with someone that has a realistic chance. Because Tevin Farmer, in my opinion, even though he's a decent little fighter, he's not a person all in all that has a realistic chance. Even if he is decently slick, there's just nothing that he can hurt Ryan Garcia with. And I know a certain amount of people that say, oh, well, don't be surprised, Ryan Garcia has a glass chin. No, he does not have a glass chin. He got knocked down against a fighter in Luke Campbell that has been on record by a couple of people of actually having a decent punch. That's not me saying that he has Teofimo Lopez or Gervonta Tank Davis-like power. But Luke Campbell at least has a little bit of pop in his punch, so I'm not surprised over that he was able to catch Ryan Garcia off guard, and all in all, he was able to hit him with a good punch that ended up knocking him down. But like I said, Isaac Pitbull Cruz and, Jojo Diaz, even those guys, Javier Fortuna, in my opinion, they're on the higher level than what a Luke Campbell is, or at least a little bit. So we'll see all in all what happens, but it should be very particularly interesting. I just don't think Tevin Farmer has anything to threaten Ryan Garcia with. He's very slick, but as long as Ryan Garcia pressures him and utilizes a jab, I really don't see how Tevin Farmer beats him. Tevin Farmer, like I said, he's actually been overrated for quite a while. Tevin Farmer, like I said, he's known for that one good win that he had over Ivan Redkach. And really, to be quite honest with you, no one really ever thought that Ivan Redkach was really that great of a fighter. He apparently had a very good amateur background when it came down to it. But that's why I always don't go super duper deep into the amateur background. Because some of these amateur fighters, they don't end up to be shit in professional boxing. And Ivan Redkach was one of those fighters. But we'll see what Mr. Tevin Farmer is able to do against that of Ryan Garcia. Personally, if I were Ryan Garcia, all in all, or in my opinion, the most impressive version of Ryan Garcia, or all in all, the best version of him, he should be able to stop Tevin Farmer. Because Ryan Garcia is going to be the most talented and probably the best fighter that Tevin Farmer has ever fought. And there's going to be certain people that disagree, but it just is what it is. But we'll see all in all what happens and what is in store for 2022 for Mr. Ryan Garcia. And we'll see what happens next. But anyways, that's pretty much about it for today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you all later.